Imagine you could bring one ancestor forward in time, not a distant one, just someone from a few thousand years ago. You sit them down in your home. You hand them your phone. You explain your job, your commute, your sleep schedule, your relationship to food and sunlight and other human beings. And the real answer is far stranger than you'd expect. They wouldn't be amazed. They would be alarmed. What if the life you're living right now, the one that feels so normal you never question it, would look to your ancestors like a slow-motion emergency? Let's start with something simple. Light. For more than 99% of human history, light came from one place, the sun. When it rose, you rose. When it set, the world went dark, and your body understood that as a command, not a suggestion. Anthropologist and sleep researcher Jerome Siegel studied 3 modern hunter-gatherer and forager societies in Tanzania, Namibia, and Bolivia that still live largely without artificial light. What he found was striking. These groups didn't sleep more than people in industrialized societies. They slept less, on average, but they slept better. Less insomnia, less reported sleep dissatisfaction. Their bodies moved through the dark in a steady, predictable rhythm that modern light has almost completely erased. Now think about your own evening, the blue glow of a screen at midnight, the fluorescent lights humming over your head at 9 in the morning and 9 at night, identical, no difference at all. Your ancestor would watch you do this and ask a simple question. Why are you telling your body it's always daytime? Here's the stranger part. Your brain still believes the old rules. It still releases melatonin based on darkness. It still expects a steep drop in light intensity to signal that rest is coming. You're not malfunctioning when you struggle to fall asleep after scrolling in bed. You're functioning exactly as designed, in an environment your design never anticipated. Now consider food. For the overwhelming majority of human history, food was effortful. It required tracking, digging, climbing, waiting, sometimes failing entirely. And then, when it arrived as a single, complete thing. A root, a fish, a handful of nuts. Nothing was separated into its parts and reassembled into something denser, sweeter, and more immediately rewarding than anything that exists in nature. Researcher Paul Kenny at the National Institutes of Health ran a now famous set of experiments comparing animals given standard food to animals given a diet resembling modern processed food, high in sugar, fat, and salt simultaneously. The processed food group didn't just eat more. Their brains showed measurable changes in dopamine receptor sensitivity, the same kind of changes seen in patterns of compulsive drug use. Their motivation systems recalibrated around a level of reward that ordinary food simply could not provide anymore. Your ancestor never encountered a single food engineered to override their natural stopping point. You walk past dozens of them on your way to work. This isn't a failure of willpower. It's an entirely predictable outcome of placing an ancient reward system inside an environment built specifically to exploit it. Now think about movement. Anthropologist Hermann Pontzer spent years studying the Hadza, comparing their daily energy expenditure to that of people in industrialized nations. What he found surprised even him. Despite walking for hours most days, the Hadza didn't burn dramatically more total calories than sedentary office workers. Their bodies adapted, redirecting energy with remarkable efficiency. But here's the detail that matters most. Their movement was constant, low-grade, and woven into the fabric of an ordinary day. Walking to find food, walking to gather water, standing, crouching, climbing. Their bodies experienced almost continuous, gentle physical engagement, broken up by genuine rest. Compare that to a typical modern day. You sit for an hour. You sit for 8. You may exercise intensely for 45 minutes, then return to 9 more hours of stillness. Researchers now call this pattern intense effort, bracketed by extreme stillness, one of the more unusual movement profiles in human history. Your ancestor wouldn't recognize the gym, not because the effort is unfamiliar, but because the stillness around it is. Let's talk about something less physical and more invisible: attention. Your ancestor's mind, for almost the entirety of human history, encountered one input at a time: a conversation, a task, a sound in the grass that needed identifying. Their attention had edges. It had a beginning and an end, shaped by the natural rhythm of a single unfolding event. You, by contrast, exist inside what researchers studying digital behavior now call continuous partial attention, a term coined by former Microsoft and Apple researcher Linda Stone. It describes a state in which a person is always partially engaged with everything and never fully engaged with anything. Not focused, not unfocused, suspended somewhere in between, scanning for the next interruption even while attending to the current one. This isn't simply a modern inconvenience. It activates the same neurological vigilance systems your ancestors used to scan for danger, except now those systems fire in response to notification sounds instead of rustling branches. Your nervous system cannot fully distinguish between an email and a threat. It treats both as something requiring immediate appraisal. Now, social connection. For nearly the entirety of human history, you knew everyone in your social world directly. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar's research suggests the human brain evolved to maintain stable relationships with roughly 150 people, a figure now widely known as Dunbar's number. Beyond that range, the cognitive cost of tracking relationships, obligations, histories, and trust becomes unsustainable. You now carry in your pocket awareness of hundreds or thousands of people, their opinions, their highlight reels, their disagreements with strangers you've never met. Your ancestors' social world was small, but it was deep. Yours is wide but often shallow, stretched across far more relationships than your evolved architecture was built to track meaningfully. This is part of why so many people report feeling lonelier despite being more connected than any humans in history. The quantity of contact increased. The depth, for many people, did not. Let's go back to something even more basic: boredom. Your ancestor experienced long stretches of unstructured time. Walking, waiting, sitting by a fire with nothing urgent to do. These moments weren't failures of stimulation. Neuroscientists now understand this kind of unstructured downtime as essential to a brain process called the default mode network, active during rest, responsible for memory consolidation, creative problem solving, and the construction of a coherent sense of self. You almost never experience true boredom anymore. The moment a gap appears, a queue, a waiting room, a walk without headphones, it's filled instantly. Researcher Sandy Mann at the University of Central Lancashire found that boredom, far from being wasted time, increases creative output when people are given simple tasks afterward. The mind, left alone, doesn't go blank. It goes to work. Your ancestor would be baffled watching you reach for your phone the instant silence appeared. Not because boredom is pleasant, but because you've engineered it almost entirely out of your life, and with it, a process your brain still quietly depends on. So here is the uncomfortable question underneath all of this. If your ancestor sat across from you and watched a single ordinary day unfold, the light you live under, the food you reach for, the stillness punctuated by frantic effort, the notifications hijacking your attention, the thin spread of your social world, the total absence of boredom, what would they conclude? Probably not that you're weak, probably not that something is wrong with you specifically. They would likely conclude that you are an ancient organism, finely tuned by hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, dropped without warning into an environment that resembles nothing your body was built to expect. And that the exhaustion, the distraction, the loneliness, the compulsive reaching for stimulation, these aren't signs of personal failure. They are completely rational responses from a nervous system trying to make sense of a world that changed faster than biology ever could. You are not broken. You are early. Your body is still waiting for an environment that matches its design, and in the meantime, every uncomfortable symptom you experience is data, not a defect. Maybe the first step isn't fixing yourself. Maybe it's recognizing that some of what feels like dysfunction is actually your ancestors' wisdom, still running quietly beneath the surface, doing exactly what it was built to do. So the next time you catch yourself wondering why something so simple, sleep, food, focus, connection, feels so hard, ask a different question. Not what's wrong with me. Ask what would my ancestors say if they saw me living like this? And somewhere in that answer, you might find the first real clue about how to live a little more like the person your body still believes you are.